An avalanche, defined as a sudden arrival or occurrence of something in overwhelming quantities. Daunting, relentless, deafening.
You better pack your poise and your toughness and your resilience, and you better pass block because this crowd goes crazy for sound.
You better pack your toughness, pack your voice. Today's the day that you can make the difference. An avalanche of 107,000 plus set to take center stage on the second Saturday in November. The Unrivaled Pregame Show, live from Beaver Stadium, starts now.
So we're ready to play football at Beaver Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania. The ball is in the air.
Tradition. Tradition like no other.
They call him plain Jane, they call him simple vanilla, you name it.
Tradition defined by excellence.
Now Brady steps away and everything's got him. Oh my goodness.
Defined by brotherhood. Storied in its history.
Throwing into touchdown. Penn State.
It's who we are.
He's got a touchdown, Penn State.
It's who came before us. It's who will continue our legacy.
Off and running. Say bye-bye.
Top game this weekend. Who is it?
Has to be Michigan versus Penn State. Let's go Michigan and Penn State.
Today we celebrate all who have earned the right to wear this stripe.
Steps up. Should have get it dropped.
This uniform.
And Robinson comes down with it.
And to represent all Penn Staters.
Launching for the end zone. Fire move goes up. Touchdown, Penn State.
We celebrate a stripe that has unified a program and a fan base since the 1950s.
And he gets walloped. Hardly turns the corner and scores again.
We celebrate its part in an iconic uniform.
McSorley picks his way. Diving. Touchdown.
The most recognizable in all of college football.
You talk about giving somebody smoke.
We celebrate this tradition,
Pre-game fireworks.
its blue-collar roots,
Great pressure by Penn State.
its strength, and all the toughness it exudes.
To the edge. Penn State has done it.
The blue stripe, like our uniform, symbolizes our competitive spirit,
Murray in the corner is Kevon Lee.
passion for Penn State, and our standard for excellence.
Rudolph over the middle, and it's intercepted. Brandon Beck.
Our standard drives us forward. We will always be Penn State. We are.
Oh, the wait is finally over. Penn State and Michigan on tap as we welcome you into the Unrivaled Pregame Show live from Beaver Stadium. I'm your host, Mitch Gerber. Coming up on today's show, we'll get you set for the 25th all-time meeting between Penn State and Michigan. We'll take a look at one of Penn State's top offensive playmakers in Jahan Dotson as we caught up with Penn State letterman Dion Butler to pick his brain about his record finally being surpassed. We'll also visit with NFC Special Teams Player of the Month, Blake Gilligan. And we'll welcome in Paul Puzlesny, the Penn State legend. And of course, it wouldn't be the Unrivaled Pregame Show without a little Team Arrival coverage, as we'll set the stage once again for you for Penn State and Michigan, which will get underway at noon Eastern on ABC. Or as always, you can listen to Steve Jones, Jack Ham, and company on the Penn State Sports Network. More from Steve Jones coming up here in a few moments with his player to watch in this contest. Weather report looks like this. You can see it's cloudy in the skies right now, 43 degrees with a real feel of 39 degrees at game time. Wind gusts upwards of 29 miles per hour this afternoon, and it's cold enough that it could sprinkle and potentially some snowflakes in the air, according to AccuWeather.com. We'll see if that is the case in this matchup. Penn State and Michigan have split the last 6 meetings, but the Nittany Lions have won the last 2 matchups in this series. Let's flash back to October 19th of 2019. Beaver Stadium, the site. Penn State wide out the event. The 4th largest crowd in Beaver Stadium history was on display. 110,669 taking center stage in front of a national audience on ABC. Quarterback Sean Clifford was responsible for all 4 Nittany Lion touchdowns, as number 14 had 14 completions for 182 yards, 3 passing TDs, and tacked on a rushing touchdown. Penn State built a 21-0 lead in the midpoint of the second quarter, but Michigan rallied back and threatened to tie the game in the final minutes of this one. Penn State would walk away with a 28-21 victory, however, and that was thanks in part to this play right here on 4th and goal from Penn State's 3-yard line. Lamont Wade, number 38, breaks up a pass in the end zone to seal a 28-21 victory. Head coach James Franklin and his program improved to 7-0 on the season, marking the best start since 2017 and the 5th 7-0 start since joining the Big Ten back in 1993. Now, speaking of one of Penn State's most electric players in KJ Hamler back in that game in 2019, how about Jahan Dotson? The wide receiver from Penn State University continues to make names and waves around college football, not only in the Big Ten, but the entire NCAA landscape. And we had the opportunity to catch up with head coach James Franklin to pick his brain about what makes Jahan Dotson so lethal.
2nd and 4.
Clifford, left side, has a man open. Touchdown, Penn State. Who else?
Clifford,
Jahan Dotson.
Dotson, touchdown, Penn State. Fabulous timing.
The Big Ten Co-Offensive Player of the Week, Jahan Dotson, continues to shine as one of the nation's top playmakers. Mitch Gerber alongside head coach James Franklin. Coach, when you went back and graded the film from this past weekend, what stuck out to you most about number 5's career night?
Well, to be honest with you, it wasn't a surprise for us. It's kind of who he's been, really his whole career. Obviously, it was amplified on Saturday. They were playing an aggressive coverage, man-to-man coverage, whether it was cover 1 or what we call cover 0. So there was tremendous opportunity if he could make the one guy miss or break a tackle that there was a lot of green grass in front of him.
Clifford, shuffling, delivers, wide open, Dotson, touchdown, Penn State.
Clifford throws, and a terrific catch made by Dotson in the back of the end zone for a Penn State touchdown.
What aspect of Jahan's game isn't discussed enough?
Well, I see it a little bit, but, his ability to just catch the ball, and I'm talking about consistently the easy ones, because a lot of guys drop because they lose their focus and they take it for granted. But also, he has the ability to make tough catches look easy.
Action on 1st down. Clifford wants to throw downfield. Loops it over the head. No, not over the head. Dotson somehow climbs the ladder and makes a catch. I thought he had no chance when the ball was in the air.
What a catch. What a catch. Gets the right hand up. That's what he's done.
Some of those balls he's caught this year where he is running over the middle of the field on a slant towards linebackers, on a crossing route towards linebackers and safeties, and the ball's low or high, and he just plucks it effortlessly.
First down to the 42. Now Clifford will throw it to the sideline. Oh, Dotson going up high, climbing the ladder to get it.
He's got a natural ability to catch the ball and to contort his body.
Going up after it is Dotson. 50-50 ball. He won it.
I think because he makes everything look so easy, you don't appreciate how talented he is and what he's doing.
During his media availability on Tuesday, he said that he could have put up 50 to 100 more yards on Saturday. From a leadership standpoint, where have you seen him take the biggest strides since arriving in Happy Valley?
Yeah, I just think his steady approach, his ability to stay level-headed, very consistent in how he practices and how he plays the games. I think that's been important for a lot of our younger players to see. He's not the most vocal guy in the world, but when he speaks, people listen. I think he made the comment, I let my play speak for me, and he's really done that, for 4 years, not only in games but also in practice.
This guy is an amazing player, Jahan Dotson, and I've been so excited to watch him play today. I think he's one of, if not the best receiver in college football right now, and this is one of those games that you just feel like he's going to make a big impact.
He lets his play speak for himself. His name continues to rise up those charts around the country. Why do you believe he is the top wide receiver in college football?
I think it's consistency. I think there's receivers out there that obviously have made some special plays. But you talk about week in and week out, the ability to produce at a high level. I don't know what his drop rate is, but it's got to be one of the best in the country, knock on wood. And to me, that's the impressive thing, and also a conference that plays great defense.
Penn State back at it this weekend against Michigan at noon Eastern on ABC. Coach, how about this weather?
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Rest of the week, Saturday as well?
Saturday as well. We'll make it happen.
Cross our fingers.
Well, we certainly tried to make that weather come to fruition, but couldn't do so far today. Jahan Dotson, a Walter Camp Player of the Year semifinalist at this point in the season. 8 quarterbacks, 4 defensive players, 2 running backs, and 1 wide receiver make up that semifinalist list. Jahan Dotson, clearly the only wide receiver on that list. We'll continue to see what Jahan Dotson, number 5 here for Penn State, does in 2021 as we now welcome in an 11-year NFL vet and Penn State legend, Paul Puzlesny. Paul, how does it feel to be back home?
It feels great. It's unbelievable to be back here, especially it's been too long. It's been too long. So to see the changes, be back on Penn State's campus, and see all the excitement surrounding the football program, it's great to be back here.
You mentioned the changes, and you're standing in a tunnel that I'd have to imagine looks way different than what it looked like back in your playing days. What are some of those changes, and why are they so important when you do come back to Penn State and take a look?
I think you just see the transformation and the growth in the area and the prominence of Penn State football and what it means to the community, and you realize that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to make sure that program stays on the right path. So it's exciting because it's all positive and it's all good things, and it shows that people here love this community. They love Penn State football, and they're doing everything that they can to keep it at a national prominence where it belongs.
As you make the drive back into the 814 area, what are some of the fondest memories that run through your head?
I mean, I think of all the great games that we played here. I think of my roommates, that the times that we spent here. Playing ball with Sean Lee, A.Q. Shipley, all of the guys that you develop these unbelievable relationships with, and it's all because of Penn State, right? And your connection to Penn State and your time together here. So, man, I think about all the great memories going on the 50-yard line on this field, and thinking about Penn State, Ohio State, and it's 2005, and it's a night game, it's a whiteout. It brings back a lot of emotion, that's for sure.
What does that say about, though, the job that Penn State football does to develop the brotherhood, not just for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, but really a lifetime?
It's a unique situation, that's for sure. Penn State has a unique culture, the tradition here. So playing in the NFL, you have an opportunity to meet a lot of different guys from a lot of different programs, and all great in their own way. But being a Penn Stater truly means something more, and it's a deeper level. Maybe compared to some other institutions, and of course we're biased, but you do see that. So the strength of the program and what it means to be a Penn State Nittany Lion, that goes with you forever.
You've walked through this tunnel multiple times. You've come out of the locker room. You've taken a right here, down through that field into a sea of 107,000 plus. Take us back through what you used to do as you walked through this tunnel, preparing for the final moments.
I was walking through here and seeing how the gates are open up right now, and I was talking with my wife. I said, when we would walk through here, and it's an unbelievable game, people are pounding on those. They're so excited. It's like the energy it explodes, right? Because you see that an entire state is here to support you and to play this game. It's such a powerful experience. There's nothing else like it. At the NFL, playing at Beaver Stadium with 110,000 people, best atmosphere in the world.
Paul, appreciate your time and enjoy being back home today.
Thank you. Great being here.
That's Paul Puzlesny, an 11-year NFL vet and Penn State legend, as he will be inside the Beaver Stadium today in attendance for this matchup between Penn State and Michigan. And fans, don't forget afterwards to join us for the Unrivaled Postgame Show. As we'll visit with head coach James Franklin and company, a couple of select Penn State student athletes following this matchup. And then, of course, the Unrivaled podcast is available for all of you every single week. And don't forget to subscribe to that, as it is the official podcast of Penn State football. This week's episode features Penn State letterman Dion Butler, who previously held the single-game receiving record before being surpassed by none other than Jahan Dotson. Listen today on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Now, speaking of Dion Butler, that conversation was pretty insightful. His record finally surpassed of 216 by Jahan Dotson, 242 receiving yards last weekend against Maryland. Let's take a quick look at what that conversation was.
Back goes Clifford, play action. Pump
he's got him. Dotson.
Deep, wide open. Dotson at the 5. Easy pickings. Touchdown, Penn State.
Plenty of time for Clifford into the end zone. Dotson, touchdown, Nittany Lions.
Clifford takes it, wants to throw. 4-man rush. Steps up, delivers down the field. Dotson, 35, 40. Dotson to the 50. Dotson gets a block, 35. Dotson, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Penn State.
On this episode of the Unrivaled podcast, we visit with Penn State letterman and former single-game receiving yards record holder Dion Butler. Dion, Jahan Dotson finally caught your record of the most receiving yards in a single game at Penn State. You held it at 216. Dotson just threw up 242 against Maryland. Talk to me. What'd you do when he broke that record?
No, I mean, it was one thing. It was an amazing performance to watch. You know, very proud of him, very happy. Just watching as the game was going on and as he got closer to that number, you just had a feeling like he was just in a zone. And you're like, yeah, he's not stopping at 200 or, you know, below what I had. So I was kind of expecting it once he got above like 175. And then once he actually hit, 240 and did that, I was happy. And I texted Justin King, who I played with after the game, and got Jahan's number, and I just shot him a text message and just let him know, like, hey, man, your game is smooth. I love the pace you play with, and, you make it fun to watch. So definitely was happy for him and wanted to congratulate him.
Jahan mentioned in his weekly media availability on Tuesday that you did text him afterwards, and obviously you just alluded to that fact. What did you say to number 5?
Yeah, I was just saying, man, hey, you make it fun to watch. Obviously – it's a little bit special when you're a former wide receiver yourself and you remember those days of playing at Penn State. So you look at the game, from a wide receiver standpoint, and just the amount of footwork, the patience, the hands, just the overall game that you see with him. I just wanted to let him know, like, just in a couple words, like, hey, you make it fun to watch, proud of you, and just keep doing your thing.
Well, that's Dion Butler with some insight as Jahan Dotson finally passed his all-time single-game career receiving record. 242 yards last weekend for number 5. We'll see what he can do inside Beaver Stadium today. And for more on that conversation with Dion Butler, be sure to check out the Unrivaled podcast. And speaking of a guy that has a little small podcast, Giovanni Hamilton, the podcaster himself, is with us now on the Unrivaled Pregame Show. Giovanni, this is your first game inside Beaver Stadium. Last year you were at the blue-white spring game, but how does it feel to be here inside Beaver Stadium about to take in your first Penn State football game?
It feels great just being outside. It's electric already, and I just can't wait to see everyone in here.
Now, you should plug your podcast because you've had some unbelievable guests on your podcast. So let's start there. What is your podcast?
Philly Sports with Giovanni.
Philly Sports with Giovanni. Make sure to follow him on Twitter. He's got a large following, so be sure to have some insight from Giovanni. But give us some of the names that you've talked to on that podcast, because I know you've got some great relationships.
Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Chris Long, Lane Johnson. Big players, a lot of Eagles players on there, and a lot of football on there.
What has been your favorite interview so far?
Probably Chris Long, because he's just been such a good friend to me and has kept in touch, and we talk a lot, and he's really helped me grow my podcast.
Now you've also got a great relationship with Carson Wentz down in Indianapolis, and you had an opportunity to spend some time down there earlier this season. What was that moment like when you got to meet Carson Wentz on the sidelines?
It was great, just being able to see him again, reunite with him, and just be able to go to Indy was amazing. Lucas Oil Stadium is just electric, and I can't wait to go back.
Now, speaking of a stadium that's electric, Beaver Stadium is going to have 107,000 plus people inside here today. What are you most excited about as the Nittany Lion passes right behind us? What are you most excited about to watch today inside that stadium?
Everything. I'm excited to see Penn State beat Michigan.
Penn State beat Michigan, according to Giovanni. Giovanni, appreciate you stopping by with us. And once again, let's plug that podcast one more time.
Philly Sports with Giovanni.
Philly Sports with Giovanni. All right, from Giovanni to Brooke Stake as we step away from Penn State football for a moment and Brooke joins us in the Bryce Jordan Center right there. Brooke, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Mitch. Now let's take a look around Penn State athletics. Once again this year, there's tons of Penn State sports going on. But first, let's recap just the home events that have happened here in Happy Valley so far this week and weekend. Starting with last night, Penn State women's soccer defeated Monmouth 3-1 for the first round of the NCAA tournament. They'll move on to the second round to play the winner of either Grand Canyon and USC today. Now, following that home matchup, Penn State men's hockey hosted Michigan before our football team this week at Pagula Ice Arena, but they dropped both games Thursday night 5-1 and last night 6-2. Now, following our football matchup today, we have a big matchup. Penn State men's soccer is hosting the Big Ten championship against Indiana. That's going to kick off at noon at Jeffrey Field tomorrow. And just here where I'm standing in the Bryce Jordan Center, the men's and women's basketball team kicked off their season. The women's basketball team hosted 2 home games this week against LIU and Rider. They got wins there, and the men's basketball team, they got a win against Youngstown State. You can see they're practicing right here behind me, and this was a huge event for head coach Micah Shrewsbury because it was his first game as a head coach for the Nittany Lion, a start of a new era. Now, stepping outside of the Happy Valley home events that were held here, we had Penn State field hockey. They've dropped 4-1 to Syracuse in an upset for the first round of the NCAA tournament. But we had women's volleyball capture a 3-1 win last night against Michigan. So as you can see, lots of Penn State sports going on. We have different teams heading into at the NCAA tournament, Big Ten championships. So it's a very exciting time all around here for all Penn State athletics. And now I'll hand it over to the third member of our broadcast team, Connor Griffin.
Thank you, Brooke. Obviously, yes, a ton going on in Penn State athletics right now. We're also going to have a handful of Penn State athletes on the field today, both past and present. These are our 2021 Tokyo Olympians who are going to be recognized on the field today across a handful of Penn State sports, representing their countries. They went over to Japan this past summer, and of course, yes, they not only represented their countries, but they represented the Penn State blue and white. So definitely nice to see Penn State honoring their excellence on the field today. Speaking of honoring excellence, though, it's a very special day here at Beaver Stadium as we honor the excellence of Penn State football players, both currently and mainly in the past. Of course, this is the helmet stripe game, the first ever helmet stripe game in the history of Penn State football, honoring one of the most iconic helmets in the history of the sport, one of the most iconic uniforms in the history of the sport. The helmet stripe is going to be at midfield in sections EE, EEU, and then on the opposite side of the field in WE and WEU. It's going to form an entire stripe going across the middle of the field. Pretty much the rest of the stadium is going to be a full whiteout, and then we'll have that blue stripe right there, of course, honoring the iconic Penn State helmet, the simple white with the blue stripe down the middle. So it's going to be a great day here in Beaver Stadium. I know we were out earlier in the day around like 8 o'clock, and you could already see waves of people getting to the stadium. The tailgate lots have been filled up, and we got plenty of people out here for team arrival in a couple of minutes. So definitely going to be a ruckus atmosphere in Beaver Stadium later today. Looking forward to the game, and with that, let's get into our Penn State versus Michigan game preview.
Moving on to Michigan, I think the first thing I'd like to say is we need this place rocking on Saturday. 12 o'clock start. The breakfast and brunch tailgating will be phenomenal. Challenge all the students and all the fans to get into that stadium as early as possible. It's going to be pretty cool in talking about the most iconic helmet in all of football. It hasn't changed. It doesn't need to change. And having the helmet stripe game in the stadium is something that's new and hopefully could be cool for us.
The individuals focus on the mindset, thoughts, habits, and actions leading to a desired result rather than focusing on the result itself. Let's make sure we start fast. Thought we did a great job of that yesterday. Let's do that again today so we can translate that to the field on Saturday.
Feeling great, man. Hey, Tuesday, hard hat day. Let's get to work.
Bring it down. We are. We are.
Handle your business tonight. Handle your business tomorrow. Let's make sure we build on today's practice tomorrow. Let's make sure we take the next step.
It's a big boy game. Right? The hard hat got to be put on, and we got to be ready to be physical and cover.
Family on 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, Cole.
Build on it. That's the message from head coach James Franklin as Penn State gets set to take on the Michigan Wolverines at noon Eastern on ABC. We now welcome in a guy that is awful familiar with this place right behind us, Blake Gilligan, a punter for the New Orleans Saints, who was just recently named the NFC Player of the Month on the specialist aspect of things. Blake, why was that award so significant for you and your career so far?
Well, first of all, it's great to be back. Penn State versus Michigan is an awesome game. Hopefully, the Nittany Lions come out with a big win today. It was significant because it was my second month in the NFL. I think, that's why it was such a big deal for me. Just kind of learning the ropes over the first month, really settling in over the second month, and then now continuing that for our very long season.
Well, learning the ropes of what it is to be an NFL player is obviously something that takes some time, but a couple months in, you've now been acclimated to what that environment is like. How different is it from the collegiate level to the NFL level in that aspect?
Yeah, I think the biggest deal for me was not having any schoolwork to do. I took my academics really seriously at Penn State, obviously, but there's no schoolwork to do now, and it's 100% focus on my craft and being the best punter that I can be, the best teammate I can be. So I say that's probably the biggest difference, and just being at the facility for 8-9 hours a day. I mean, you're around these guys so much. They really become your family. It's the same way in college. So I'd say that's probably a big similarity also.
Now, head coach James Franklin often emphasizes the importance of it's not just a 1-year or 2-year decision to come to a place like Penn State University. It's a 4-year decision and potentially more to be able to get your degree, much like you did here at Penn State. How do you believe that James Franklin and his staff and Penn State University shaped you into the individual that you are today?
Yeah, I think it's the attention that they put on all other aspects of your life. I mean, they really emphasize being great in the classroom, being a great leader, being a great teammate, and overall being a great person. I think, I gave this example to our local media last week. They asked me about, why is James Franklin so attractive to other places, not just Penn State. It's the family atmosphere that he creates. And he still, talks to my parents. He still meets with my parents when they come to Happy Valley. It's a family atmosphere that, he has manifested in Happy Valley, and he's done that every place he's been, and will do that at Penn State for as long as he's going to be there, hopefully for the rest of his career. So, I'm indebted to him for all the things he's done for me and my family, and I'll continue to support and give back to the program for sure.
Well, Blake, we certainly have to talk about the specialists here at Penn State University so far through 2021, that being Jordan Stout. He's been nothing short of electric for CTG to be able to change the game on a game-in and game-out basis. What's impressed you about number 98?
So much. I mean, Jordan's a really good friend of mine. I trained with Jordan when I was in high school and continue to do so in the offseason. So, I mean, just to handle all three jobs at the collegiate level is remarkable. There's only a handful of guys that are able to do it and able to do it successfully. I think, playing specifically, Jordan's been unbelievable this year. I think it was announced he was a semifinalist for the Ray Guy Award, which I never was. So I guess you could say he's had a little bit more success than I did, but he's just doing an unbelievable job, really changing the game like, Coach Lord and Coach Franklin preached that special teams need to be able to do. And, he's going to be huge today in this Penn State versus Michigan game. Every Big Ten game is a field position battle. The Big Ten's a punting conference, and to have a great punter as a weapon is a huge advantage.
You're saying that he's got a little bit of bragging rights over you potentially at this point in time. All right, Blake, last question for you. The X factor for you as you watch this matchup today between Penn State and Michigan. You know this opponent all too well. What's the X factor for you?
Man, I think the X factor, would have to be field position. Michigan's a team that loves to run the ball. Every time we played Michigan when I was there, field position made a huge difference in the game. If you can pin Michigan back inside of 10, inside the 5, they have a really hard time, transversing the entire field with their offensive scheme. So I think Jordan's going to play a huge role in this game. And of course, fittingly, the punter is going to say the punter is going to make a big difference today. But that's how I see it playing out.
Blake, certainly great to see you again with that Nittany Lions sweatshirt on, and good luck the rest of this season as you continue to excel at the next level.
Thank you. We are.
That's Blake Gilligan, a punter for the New Orleans Saints, as we continue our coverage of the Unrivaled Pregame Show with Team Arrival right around the corner. The stage program is nearly set to get underway, as we'll carry that live for you. But we now welcome in Steve Jones, the voice of the Nittany Lions, to continue our coverage here. And Steve, we just talked to Blake Gilligan. We talked to Paul Puzlesny, who you had a moment with in the hallway. When it comes to all these faces that are around on a game like this, what continues to impress you about this brand?
The legacy of what this place is and how James Franklin has built upon that legacy. And the best days, I think, are still to come here, which is really cool. Paul made so many great plays here. Well, that interception for a touchdown that you showed where he laid out the goal line against Minnesota, that was the week before the Ohio State game. And that was in here in 2005. And Minnesota came in ranked 18th in the country, and Penn State won the game 44-17 and blew them out. And Paul laid out the goal line as a pivotal play in that game. Blake Gilligan, when James brought him in, James is a big believer in special teams, and that changed our punting and field position and how James wanted to play the chess game. So those are two really important guys in the history, our recent history.
Well, there's certainly a lot of past history and a lot of history to be made yet surrounding this Penn State football program, and that could start today against the Michigan Wolverines. What is your X factor in this matchup? Not player to watch, not quite yet, but your X factor.
Staying on schedule. Penn State offensively staying on schedule, and Penn State's ability to get Michigan off schedule. Michigan is a team that thrives on 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. Michigan's a team that then thrives on 3rd and 2. You're going to be able to get them into 3rd and 8 and then make McNamara make some plays. Not that he can't, but you got to make him make some plays. Conversely, Penn State needs to be the team that makes big plays, stays on schedule themselves, and gets Michigan off balance. And you need to control those two defensive ends, Hutchinson and Ojabo. You can't stop them all the time, but get some control more often than not.
All right, let's get to our players to watch in this matchup as Steve Jones gets set for the broadcast on the Penn State Sports Network with Jack Ham and company. Steve, your player to watch in this matchup.
Ellis Brooks, the middle linebacker, and the reason I say that is that when you're talking about a team in Michigan that want and is dedicated to running the football, you need to clear a path for 13. This could be the kind of day where Ellis Brooks has a double-digit tackle day, and those tackles are within 2 or 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. Penn State's going to have a big day. I think he'll be pivotal in that.
I'm going to go on the opposite side of the football, Steve, and I'm going to go with Kevon Lee, the running back for Penn State University. James Franklin talked about again this week, just looking for one of those backs to really get going. The last time versus Michigan back in 2020, I know they've got a different look this season, but it's something to be said that he rushed for a career-high 134 yards on 22 carries. So we'll see if number 24 can get going.
Mitch, last week he had 50 yards, and he's averaging almost 6 yards a carry this year. You give him a crease, he'll be able to get through. Now, you're hoping to get a chunk play in the running game, right? I think he's capable of doing that, but if he can get plays of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 yards, that's big.
Absolutely big. That's Steve Jones' player to watch, as well as ours, as the team is right around the corner from Arrive. And Steve, appreciate you stopping by on the Unrivaled Pregame Show.
Thanks, Mitch. Always great to be with you.
Kickoff set for noon Eastern on ABC. As you've seen, Team Arrival coverage starting to get ramped up right there. November 13th is the day. Noon kickoff on ABC between Penn State and Michigan. Unrivaled Pregame Show is brought to you by Penn State Health, as we appreciate the sponsors being able to bring us this all-access pregame show live from Beaver Stadium. All right, so you're getting a look at Dean DeVore right there from Team Arrival up on stage. You're getting a look at the tunnel right behind us. It's starting to light up blue. You got the cool lights that are taking place inside here, and on the top left of your screen, that's where the players will walk into as you see the cheerleaders, the flags, all of that starting to run out right now as Team Arrival coverage gets started. While we continue our coverage, let's go through some milestones to watch for today as you await the Penn State Nittany Lions to arrive here to Beaver Stadium. Quarterback Sean Clifford is 41 yards shy of 8,000 career total offensive yards, 144 yards shy of 1,000 career rushing yards. Linebacker Ellis Brooks, who Steve Jones touched on a little bit there, 1 tackle shy of 200 career tackles. I have to imagine that he gets that today in this matchup. Running back John Lovett is 32 yards shy of 2,000 career rushing yards. We just talked about Kevon Lee. Could running back John Levitt also play a factor in this matchup with Michigan today? And last but not least, wide receiver Parker Washington is just 13 yards shy of 1,000 career receiving yards. You get a look at the tailgate lots right there. Wind's starting to blow a little bit when the weather report says gusts of 29 miles per hour. According to AccuWeather, they aren't kidding. See the wind playing a factor right there. 43 degrees, real-time feel of 39 degrees at kickoff, 60% chance of rain. It was drizzling around the 8 o'clock hour here in Happy Valley. We'll see if that rain can hold off today inside Beaver Stadium. All right, as Penn State's team coverage continues, let's toss it over to the Nittany Lion right there. Dean DeVore up on stage, and we'll carry the program for a few more minutes of Penn State's Team Arrival.
Guys, so the Lion and I were up early this morning sharing a cup of coffee, and he said he wanted to do something special for you guys. 14 one-arm push-ups for our quarterback, Sean Clifford. Help me get him started. Clap. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Someone's been hitting the gym.
Someone looks good, and not only have you been hitting the gym, I think you've been hitting the dance studio. I'm going to see a little dance routine from the Nittany Lion and his skit coming up in the game today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the symbol of our best, the Penn State Nittany Lion. And another group of our Spirit squads that is just an amazing group. They are three-time national champion dance team. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Penn State Lioness.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat goes right through my chest. Everybody, I became the party. Grab somebody, work your body, work your body. Let me see you one, two, step. Everybody get up, party. We about to get it on. I love it. We about to get it on.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the national champion dance team, the Penn State Lionettes. Connor, I see the buses, so I got one more cheer from you as we get ready to bring this team in.
Yes, sir. When I say Penn, you say State. Penn. State. Penn. State. When I say blue, you say white. Blue. White. Blue. White. When I say Sean, you say Clifford. Sean. Clifford. Sean. Clifford. When I say Nittany, you say Lions. Nittany. Nittany. When I say go, you say State. Go. State. Go. Go State! We are! Thank you.
Connor, thank you very much. Folks, I want you to start revving up your engines to bring on this team that great win last week down in Maryland. It was so great to see so many of you there. Let's make Beaver Stadium the home it is for Penn State football today. Ladies and gentlemen, led out by the Pennsylvania State University Marching Blue Band, please welcome your 2021 Penn State Nittany Lions. Give it up, too, for the Penn State cheerleaders as they run by. And with drum major Ryan Friss, the Penn State Marching Blue Band. Ladies and gentlemen, the Penn State Nittany Lion football team, get ready to take on the Wolverines today.
Well, Team Unrivaled coverage continuing here in Happy Valley as Penn State gets set for the 25th all-time meeting between Penn State and Michigan. If you missed anything earlier in the show, we highlighted Jahan Dotson's career performance against Maryland with 242 receiving yards, setting the all-time single-game record for Penn State. We caught up with letterman Dion Butler. Go back and watch that. We also talked to Paul Puzlesny. He'll be in attendance today. We'll see him inside Beaver Stadium. We also went one-on-one with NFC Special Teams Player of the Month, Blake Gilligan. Go back and watch all of that from earlier on the Unrivaled Pregame Show as you see the Penn State Blue Band making their triumphant entrance into Beaver Stadium. Here they come. Let's take a listen. And here comes the team inside the tunnel right now with the Penn State Blue Band leading the way. Head coach James Franklin will make his pregame lap as you see some of the players giving their family members a hug in the audience right there. It is the Penn State helmet stripe game today, so you see a lot of folks dressed in white, a few in blue, as that should look pretty cool in front of a national audience at noon Eastern on ABC. Sean McDonough, Todd Blackledge, and Molly McGrath will be on the call for that contest, or as always, you can listen to Steve Jones and company on the Penn State Sports Network. A few of the players making their way into the locker room. We've seen this both at home and on the road. At home, most of the players go in the locker room first to be able to go through their final checklist in their head, get their uniforms on, get some of their warm-ups on. One interesting note, if you ever watch warm-ups to watch for, is Jaquan Brisker. He'll come out of the locker room with his helmet on already. Most of the players will not. I asked Jaquan Brisker earlier this week and said, why do you do that? He said, you know what, in a game, you don't have your helmet off, so you might as well warm up with it on to help create that vision. right away. So pretty cool nugget there from Jaquan Brisker. You see some of the players dapping up some of the managers and such. So this is the grand entrance for Penn State football as they make their way into Beaver Stadium for the matchup with Penn State and Michigan. There's a live shot of Beaver Stadium as it looks right now. Beautiful job by the field crew here to be able to make that field look immaculate in the second Saturday in November. Once again, it's about 43 degrees outside. Real feel of 39 degrees, 60% chance of rain. It was raining at about 8 to 8:30 a.m. this morning. Just some off and on light sprinkles. We could see that come game time once again. But for those that have been to Happy Valley, you know all too well that weather passes right over the valley and either sits there or it breaks up. And it's done a nice job so far here today breaking up Penn State and Michigan. That 90-minute clock will eventually start to trickle down, and eventually it will get to zero, and this matchup will kick off between Penn State and Michigan. Head coach James Franklin walking past us right now as he'll do his pregame lap out on the field. Just met his family right inside the tunnel. There he is, head coach James Franklin, set to take on the Michigan Wolverines. He'll make his pregame lap around the field just as he does every single Saturday. Penn State's DJ that does some pregame music. Head coach James Franklin now shaking hands with some of the students already inside Beaver Stadium as he does every single time. Make sure to say thank you to all the members that help make these games inside Beaver Stadium possible. You see the workers right there, first responders. Monica just to his left, who is a huge asset for this Penn State football program week in and week out. The 25th all-time meeting between Penn State and Michigan just about set to get underway at noon Eastern. And don't forget, fans, to join us for the Unrivaled Postgame Show following today's contest as we visit with that man right there, head coach James Franklin, and select Penn State student athletes. Until then, it's kickoff set for noon Eastern on ABC. We'll see you then.
So we're ready to play football at Beaver Stadium, State College, Pennsylvania. The ball is in the air.
Tradition. Tradition like no other.
They call him plain Jane, they call him simple vanilla, you name it.
Tradition defined by excellence.
Now Brady steps away and everything's got him. Oh my goodness.
Defined by brotherhood. Storied in its history.
Throwing into touchdown. Penn State.
It's who we are.
He's got it. Touchdown, Penn State.
It's who came before us. It's who will continue our legacy.
Off and running. Say bye-bye.
Top game this weekend. Who is it?
Has to be Michigan versus Penn State. Let's go Michigan and Penn State.
Today we celebrate all who have earned the right to wear this stripe.
Steps up. Gonna get it dropped.
This uniform.
And Robinson comes down with it.
And to represent all Penn Staters.
Launching for the end zone. Fire move goes up. Touchdown, Penn State.
We celebrate a stripe that has unified a program and a fan base since the 1950s. We celebrate its part in an iconic uniform.
McSorley picks his way, diving, touchdown!
The most recognizable in all of college football.
You talk about giving somebody smoke.
We celebrate this tradition.
Pre-game fireworks.
Its blue-collar roots.
Great pressure by Penn State.
Its strength. And all the toughness it exudes.
To the edge. Penn State has done it.
The blue stripe, like our uniform, symbolizes our competitive spirit, passion for Penn State, and our standard for excellence.
Over the middle, and it's intercepted. Brandon Beck.
Our standard drives us forward. We will always be Penn State. We are